Hi everybody, my name's Yvette. I'm coming to you from Yvette Marie's Fine Arts and Crafts. Today I'm going to show you how to work the double crochet stitch, which is here. In these examples, I've got a single crochet stitch here, a half double crochet stitch here, double crochet stitch here, and a treble or triple crochet stitch here. You'll see the difference in the stitches. This one here is 9 across. This one here is 10 across, 10 across, and 10 across. You'll see the difference in size in working these stitches when I've got the same number of stitches in these three. Even though I've got 9 stitches here, adding one more stitch is not going to make too much of a difference compared to the other ones. You'll see that have 10 stitches. There's quite a difference in size. So you'll always want to make sure that as you're working a pattern, you're counting your stitches carefully and using the correct stitch and the correct size crochet hook. For these examples, I used the same size crochet hook, a size 10.5, also known as a size K. And that's what I'm going to be using today to show you how to work the double crochet. I've got a size 10.5 or K crochet hook here, and I'm just going to be using some standard yarn. So if you're not familiar with how to create a chain, I will be creating a chain here, but you'll also want to check out one of my other videos that just shows you how to work a base chain for creating your rows. So we're just going to create a slip knot to begin. And if you check out my video, it'll show you how to create your slip knot in your chain. We're going to go into that original adjustable slip knot, and we're going to create a chain of 10. So we've got 1, and I'm going to work this chain of 10 fairly loose, not too tight, otherwise it ends up puckering that first row at the beginning and it looks pretty yucky. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now when we're working with a double crochet, and we're just going to work back and forth in this particular example, you're going to add an additional chain of 2 to your standard count of stitches that you're working with at the end of this row before you turn your work. And the chain 2 is going to be for spacing and working around that curve to start working back down your row in this direction. So I've got my chain 10 here. I'm going to add 1 and 2. Now these 2 chains that I just added, again, are just for working around a curve in this manner so that when I work back into that third stitch, my work doesn't pucker here. It gives me space in working that next row, sort of like a ladder. So I'm going to skip this one and this one. I'm going to work into this third chain here, skipping 1, 2. I'm going to work into this third one. So in order to work the double crochet stitch, we're going to wrap the yarn around our hook one time, skip those first 2 chains, work into the third stitch. Now you'll see as I've got my row of stitches here, or chain, you want to keep your chain straight as you're working into this top area, these top loops across your chain. Make sure you don't twist your yarn like this or like this as you're working it and working into the wrong area. Make sure you're always keeping it nice and straight and just working into that top layer, that top row of loops. So let's start this fresh. So I'm going to skip those 2 extra chains I created, and I'm going to work into this third chain. So to work your double crochet, you're going to wrap your yarn around once, skip those first 2, work into that third chain or third loop, wrap your yarn around your hook, pull it through one time, wrap your yarn around your hook again. You're going to pull through 2 loops or 2 chains on your hook at this point. You're going to have 2 chains left. You're going to wrap your yarn around your hook one more time, and you're going to pull through those 2 remaining chains on your hook. That is your first double crochet stitch that you have here. Here are those 2 extra chains that we used to wrap around that curve in that corner. So we're going to work the same stitch across into each one of these loops or chains at the top here. Again, working the second double crochet, we're going to work into this stitch here. You'll see this one's a little bit spread out. It's already got our first double crochet in it. We're going to work into this one right here. So we're going to wrap the yarn around our hook, insert the hook in that top chain, wrap the yarn around the hook again, pull it back through that chain, wrap the yarn around the hook, pull it through 2 chains, wrap the yarn around the hook, and pull it through the 2 remaining chains. So now we've got 2 double crochets and those extra 2 chains at the end that are giving us that curve at the end, so that we don't have kind of a weird puckering. If we didn't have those, it would kind of look like this here. So this is going to open it up for us and give us a nice even look across the edges when we're working that chain. So we're going to work the double crochet in the same manner across the whole thing, wrapping the yarn around the hook, working into this next loop or next chain. Now what you're going to find is when you do that, you've got this little piece of yarn here that's in your finger. It's automatically going to kind of sort of wrap around your hook here. So instead of having to manually wrap it around, as you go into your loop or chain here, you sort of can just grab it like this here to pull through. Okay, so you've got 3 on the hook. You're going to wrap your yarn around your hook again, pull through 2 of your chains or 2 of your loops, wrap it around a second time, pull through the last 2 chains. Now you've got 1, 2, 3 double crochets, your extra chains at the end, and you've got 7 more to go. So we're just going to continue working in this fashion to the end, through 2, wrap, and through the second 2. Wrap your yarn around your hook, work into that next chain, wrap, wrap, and wrap and pull through the second 2. Next stitch, wrap your yarn around again, work into the top of this next stitch. Let me do that again in the easier way where it just kind of grabs the yarn. So we'll just kind of go like this. Okay, pull it back through, wrap your yarn around, pull it through 2 loops, wrap your yarn around a second time, which makes it the double crochet, and pull it through the second 2 loops. Next stitch, same thing. Okay, we've just got a few more stitches to go to the end. Wrap around, work into that next stitch, pulling it through, wrap around, wrap around. Okay, we've got 1 stitch left at the end here that we're going to work into. Wrap your yarn over, through the stitch, grabbing the yarn, pulling it through, wrap around, pull through 2, wrap around, pull through the remaining 2. At the end of the row, you've got your 10 stitches on the top here. Again, you're going to do an additional 1, 2 chains at the end. You're not going to work into these 2 chains. This is going to be your turning chains again, so that when similar to these 2 chains we did in addition at the end of our row here for that turning space around the curve here. So we've added 2 chains here. We're going to flip our work around, we're going to skip the 2 chains that we made, and we're going to work into this first chain across the top here, and we'll have 10 to work into. And we're going to make sure that we work through both the front and the back layer. When you insert your hook into the front to work it, you're going to go through both of those layers here. So we're going to do the same thing as we did for the first row. We're going to wrap the yarn around our hook. We're going to work in, skip these 2 extra chains, work into this area here. As you turn it, you'll see that when we work into it, there is a layer of those 2 stitches here, like there are across the whole row. You're going to wrap your yarn around it, or catch it, pull it through, wrap your yarn around your hook again, pull it through 2. You'll have 2 left on there. Wrap it around again, pull it through 2. Okay? Wrap your yarn. We're going to work our next stitch. We're going to work into this next one here. We just worked into this one here. You'll see how it's pulled apart and open. We've got that stitch in there. We're going to go into this one here. Again, we're going to go through both of these, front and back area. So we're going to wrap the yarn around our hook into that hole, both layers, the V. Wrap our yarn around the hook, pull it through, wrap our yarn around again, pull it through 2 of the stitches on the needle, on the hook, excuse me, wrap it around again, and through the other 2. We're just going to keep working that same process across the whole row. Wrap the yarn around your hook to begin, into our next stitch here, then it would be this one, then it would be this one. So we're going to work into this one here, through both layers, catching the yarn and pulling it back through. Now you don't want this to be too tight. You don't want to yank the yarn from behind. Let it be loose so that it can kind of fit over this needle comfortably to work into that next stitch. Otherwise it pulls too tight and you end up having these really tight rows. So if it can easily move back and forth on your needle here, you know you're fine. Okay, so we're going to continue the stitch. Wrap your yarn around, pull it through 2 of the loops, wrap your yarn around, pull it through your final 2 loops. Next stitch, wrap your yarn, place it through that next hole, front and back, catching your yarn, pulling it through, wrap your yarn again, pull through 2, wrap your yarn again, pull through the remaining 2. I'm just going to continue this process all the way to the end of the row. Again, I think I mentioned earlier, this is an easy stitch to work. You can create however many stitches you want in a row. Again, I created 10 here plus those additional 2. So if you want to do 15 wide, you're just going to create your 15 stitches, your initial 15 chain, and then you'll add 2 at the end, like I did, and then skip those 2 to use it as your curve. So you'd end up really having 17, but you don't really use those 2 at the end. And then you'd have a wider one. You can make a scarf or something with it, something simple. Okay? We're going to work into our last stitch here, and the way you'll know it's the last stitch is it's facing this way so that you're going to work into it. These are those extra 2 chains that we created at the end. You'll know this is your last stitch because you've got a V shape here. These ones are your extra ones because you don't have a front and a back to work into. This one here you have a front and a back yarn to work into. So we're going to wrap our yarn around. We're going to work into that last stitch, going into both layers. Wrap your yarn around again, pull it through, wrap, pull through your 2 chain, wrap, pull through your final 2 chain. Okay? So now you've got 2 rows that are easily distinguishable as you look at them of the double crochet. You can keep working back and forth, back and forth, back and forth as long as you want it to make a scarf. You can add some fringe to the end or something fun. Just remember that at the end of each row you're going to create 1 and 2 additional chains, and when you flip it back over, you're going to work into this stitch here, skipping those 2 chains that you just created. You'll just work that first stitch into that chain there, and you've got your additional chain 2 here so that you have that space and it doesn't scrunch it all up. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Alright, so check out my other videos. I've got some other videos on how to do the single crochet, the double crochet, half double crochet, this one's here, the double crochet, and the treble crochet or triple crochet. And I'm also adding patterns that these stitches will be used to work. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at YvetteMariesFineArt@gmail.com. I get lots of questions and comments, and I'm always happy to answer them. And I will post that information below and at the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.